Hello, everybody. Happy Friday here on my channel, the Whiskey Jedi channel, I guess you can call it, but my channel specifically. I am Jake Belind. I'm sure most of you know me already. If not, thank you so much for joining me for the first time. Yes, it is Friday, and we are here for a Whiskey Jedi episode. We're here to drink some whiskey. We're here to talk Star Wars, and I'm super excited for today. I got a guest with me today, Mr. Sean Sullivan, who's going to be joining me to talk some really cool things in Star Wars. Something that I have yet to talk about on this show so far. We're going to be talking some pilots, and maybe one specific pilot for the majority of the time. I'll leave that up to Sean. But yeah, we're also going to be drinking some Woodford Reserve whiskey, which is really cool. I actually have a little personal connection to Woodford, and I was actually able to gift it to Sean for a gift. And so I'm interested to see what his real thoughts on Woodford are. But yeah, so we're here to talk some Star Wars and whiskey for the next 45 minutes or so. If you guys have questions about pilots, or you want to leave some comments in the chat about your favorite pilots and whatnot, make sure you're leaving those in there. If you guys have whiskey recommendations as well, make sure you're leaving those in there for us. That way we can jot them down or remember them for next time. But with all that said, let's go ahead and bring him on. I'll bring on my guest here. I got Mr. Sean Sullivan joining me to kick this off real quick. And there he is.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
How you doing, man?
Just maddeningly trying to adjust lights and settings before having to be on air.
It happens.
And now I'm realizing that my desk is even more shaky with these lights than it was before. It feels like you do one tech upgrade, and then that leads to you needing to do three others.
100%.
Let's turn that off. There we go.
It never stops. No,
it never stops. And like, I have found a way to make my setup as confusing and complicated as possible, because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to things like that. And just, I don't know. I just, yeah. So that's where I'm at today.
You're good.
And I think maybe part of it is in order to, distract me from other things going on today. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a nice little break before. Obviously, a lot of people watching are we're connected to them via the Movie Trivia Schmodown. So it's a nice break between everything that's kind of happening right now. But we're here to talk two things that we love. That is Star Wars and whiskey. I want to start by saying to everybody watching, the way that I work this show with my guests is that I have them introduce a topic to me. So they're the ones in charge of the topics for the show when they come on. Whether it's just something that's happening currently in current events, or we're posing a question, which is kind of what we're doing today. And Sean, I got to say this, it sounds like you had a pretty tough time coming up with something.
Well, okay. So here's the whole idea behind what I was looking for. You told me, let's think of a topic. Yeah. And I went back and I looked at, okay, what topics have you done before?
It's fair.
And, it's been like Ahsoka TV show and Mandalorian this and all that. Look, there's plenty of channels out there that talk about, what's going to happen, what's coming up, what they want to see. But I looked to, one of the people I love hearing about Star Wars is Ken Knapsack and Joseph Scrimshaw. And they always talk about, in detail points and things they want to see in Star Wars, but in a more, wide sense. Not like, in the Boba Fett series, I want to see Dengar come in and I want to find out how he got the dent, all that stuff. I don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't care. So that was my issue coming up with a topic, was finding something that was a little more interesting than just who's directing the next, Star Wars movie. So I went and it's kind of been a running joke with me that I love Tali Lintra. And I'm going to bring a little tiny bit of negativity here. I don't love Rise of Skywalker.
Okay.
And for a long time, it took me a long time to try to figure out why that is. Why don't I like Rise of Skywalker? It's got everything I wanted. It's got a big space battle. It's got lightsaber fights. It's got Force BS, It's because the final space battle isn't impactful to me. And what makes a space battle impactful isn't the ships and the explosions and the maneuvering, which Rise of Skywalker doesn't have very good starfighter maneuvering. Compare the space battle of Rise of Skywalker to that in Rogue One, and you get a very, very different sense. Rogue One, you get to see Red Squadron maneuver through the shield gate struts on the exterior of it. You don't get any of that in Rise of Skywalker. You get X-Wings passing the screen, and that's not what I want. I shouldn't have done this out of a snifter. It's much harder to drink on screen out of a snifter. So that's where I came up with the thought of what makes a good background pilot and what makes a good on-screen, rebel fighter. So I'm not looking at the Luke Skywalkers. I'm not looking at the Han Solos. I'm not looking at Anakin or Obi-Wan. I'm looking at the Tallies and the Wedges and the Biggs, the Dak Ralter, all of those. And, it's just they're kind of the unsung heroes of Star Wars. And they're really what hooks me in a space battle.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, obviously, when we talk about Star Wars, we talk about lightsabers and stuff, but the star fights themselves with all the ships and specifically X-Wings and A-Wings and TIE fighters, that's kind of what a lot of us, especially us two, we kind of look at a little bit more so than others just because we love the ships and we love the aspect of space battles. And I'm with you. I love myself an Anakin and a Luke Skywalker and stuff, but you're right when you talk about these pilots and what they bring to the stage. And someone who I know that Tally comes to mind for you, which she does for me, and we're gonna get into her, but Wedge comes to mind for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He is. I mean, he lived through everything. He lived through everything. He's like one of the only characters to live through all the battles that we had seen in the entire trilogy, or the saga, I should say. So it's a very interesting point to bring up, and it's a point that not enough people bring up.
Yeah, I mean, another one that comes into excuse me, sorry, my kind of been losing my voice the last few days. Another one that comes to mind for me is Denis Elberger, who's Bravo 5, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I believe she's Bravo 5 in Phantom Menace. She doesn't have very many lines, but like just the way she delivers them.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what this is about, is the chatter between the pilots. Look, you and I have played Squadrons together. I know Reef's in the chat. Reef's played Squadrons. Buck's played Squadrons with us. What it comes down to is when you're in a starfighter, you need to communicate. And if you're not communicating, and yeah, I just not to turn this into a why I hate Rise of Skywalker.
It's fair though. It's fair.
Because I don't hate Rise of Skywalker. Really, it should be why I hate the Battle of Exegol. The Battle of Exegol just kind of, the stakes aren't there. I mean, and you come down to, talking about pilots again, you've got Snap Wexley and Wedge Antilles in the fight. Snap blows up and then Wedge shows up.
Yeah.
And that's not Wedge's fault or Snap's fault, because I think Snap's another example of a good background pilot. He's got a few lines. He says the line in the planning stage, just like fake Wedge or Cole Tackbright, whatever you want to call him. You've got Dak Ralt. I think it was Dak Ralter. It might have been Jansen. Two fighters against a Star Destroyer. You've got all the lines that are said in the pre-prep meetings that just make you think, okay, this is a starfighter. This is a starfighter squadron that is together and matters. All of that. I don't know.
No, it's fair. I think, because, and I'm with you. I think I lean a little bit more towards the middle ground of Rise of Skywalker, where I'm in the minority when I say I like a good majority of it. And it's just, I don't know why, I just do. But one of the aspects that I don't care for so much is the Exegol fight, because not just because there weren't any stakes, but I didn't really feel like I was caring about the people that were dying.
No.
And even though I had known some of them for a couple of movies, like Snap, for example, it just kind of like happened. And then I forgot about it. I wasn't talking about it or like, well, shit, that guy died. Like
when you walked out of Rogue One, you talked about the hallway scene first. Then what?
The space battles.
The space battles.
Yeah.
When you walked out of, I mean, you and I were both, we would have been
middle schoolers for the prequels.
Middle school for the prequels. Yeah, I think I was a freshman in high school or in 8th grade when Revenge of the Sith came out.
Yeah.
What did you talk about?
The opening scene of Revenge of the Sith.
Oh yeah. It's and Phantom Menace is a good example of one that you don't really talk about it, right? Like the Battle of Naboo, the space battle component of the Battle of Naboo is only about 4 minutes of shots. And most of that is focused on Anakin in the hangar, which, by the way, those Lucrehulks have way too big of hangars. Anakin should have crashed into the back of that hangar. But yeah, I mean, it's even episode 1 has, Rick Ali and Denis going back and forth, what's that? It's blowing up from the inside. We didn't hit it, And then I don't know that I got to look up the other. Brian, if you're watching, look up the name of the pilot that says, look, one of ours out of the main hole. Or Reef, if you know it. I don't know that guy's name. I need his name and call sign. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's something that, when I was a kid on the playground and I had one buddy who liked Star Wars as much as I did. It was always imagining being in space fights, Yeah, sure, lightsabers, but when you're, before the prequels came out, we only had 3 characters with lightsabers and one of them was dead. There wasn't a whole lot of, until the prequels, there wasn't a whole lot of thought of other characters other than Luke Skywalker with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
I mean, Han uses a lightsaber. Arvin Wendick, Bravo 3. Yeah, I could have Googled it. All right, well, there we go.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you.
He fits the 2 people of color quota per movie.
Yeah, there you go.
Him and Captain Panaka. Fucking Star Wars and.
Well, so it's funny because we've been talking about all these space battles through like Rogue One and prequels and stuff. The one that we haven't mentioned that is like the prime example is the trench run.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even better than the trench run is All Wings Report In.
That is very true.
That's like that has become. It's become such a signature of a Star Wars space battle that they almost make a point not to do it again in any other movie. Because they kind of do it in Return of the Jedi. They have each squadron report in. They kind of do it at the Battle of Starkiller Base, but even then, like, there's only like 2 or 3 people reporting in. I don't think any other movie does it. Do they do it in Rogue One?
I feel like they might do it in Rogue One because we know that Red 5 is there.
That's because Garvin calls him out. He says Red 5. I forget what he says, but he calls.
So maybe they don't call in. Maybe they just get called out as they go or something.
Yeah, and they might call in. They might do the leader call-ins like they do in Return.
I know that Radis says Blue Squadron, get yourselves down to the beach.
Yeah.
Red and Gold Squadron, protect. So maybe that's the way of calling him out, essentially.
Yeah, I think that's how they do it. And speaking of Radis, there's another point to. Well, let's talk about. Let's go back to this. We'll circle back. The trench run is really our first example of this, right? You've got a whole scene where it's pilots talking, pilot talk, with flashes to the command center.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the model for a Star Wars space battle. You've got, Calrissian and Arvel Kryned, and you've got Wedge and it flashes back to Akbar in the home one, and then you kind of have that at the Battle of Hoth. You've got flashing between Luke and Wedge and Zev, and then flashing back to the command center, and then interspersed with the Han and Leia plot. And that really becomes the signature of a Star Wars space battle, is that communication. And again, not to make this, I hate.
You're good. You're good.
Hate the Battle of Exegol, but the Battle of Exegol doesn't have that. It's got pilots, and then it has Rey and why can't I remember names today? Rey and Ben. I'll tell you what, these lights, they look great, but they really make the bags under my eyes really bad.
As Jill says this, there you go.
I know. It certainly makes my camera look clearer, but it means I got to get a backlight now. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I like Star Wars so much is this brilliant love story to the old World War II, films about World War II and Vietnam and samurai films. And look, World War II films, you mostly get stuff on the ground, mostly because when we were doing World War II films, it was hard to shoot fighter pilot stuff, but Top Gun that came after, we're kind of, with Top Gun, we kind of have a new definition for what fighter pilot stuff is. And I think the reason I'm so impassioned about this topic is because we're going to get Rogue Squadron soon.
It's a good point.
Like, you better nail this, Patty. I know you will, but
yeah, that's an interesting point, just because we know that a squadron is a number of pilots, but we can't just care about the 4 or 5 pilots that are in a squadron. We're gonna have to care about the pilots that are also around them. And it's like a whole group. It's not just a select number that we're gonna have to focus on. Yes, there's gonna be a couple that are gonna be the mains. But what about the tallies, and what about the wedges and the bigs and those characters? And you brought up the war part of this, and it's interesting because I'm a big war movie snob. Like, I love myself war films. It's kind of like just one of those movie or that genre of movie where I just kind of I want to watch anything that's a war aspect in movies. Right. And it's a good comparison that the soldiers on the ground in Star Wars and what they're doing as far as like a group or a battalion are very much the fighter pilots in the stars for what we're seeing. Because a lot of the ground stuff that we see in Star Wars, as of right now anyway, has to do with lightsabers and Jedi and Sith. And we rarely see the ground soldiers. We see them every once in a while, but we rarely see them.
You get very little. Like Battle of Hoth, you get some shots of them, but none of them really have names. Like they have names, but
and then Endor
slightly viewers don't know their names.
Yeah, and then Endor slightly with Han, like that's it.
Yeah, with you get a some very quick shots of them in Last Jedi.
Yeah,
at the final battle.
Mm-hmm. But that's about it.
The Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace actually, you get a decent amount because you get Panaka and Padme storming the throne room.
Good call.
And you get Jar Jar, and as much as you want to consider them soldiers, you get Jar Jar and Tarpals.
Yeah.
But again, with Attack of the Clones, which is Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith are your two real war movies.
Yeah.
And you really don't get named characters. I mean, again, it's kind of a matter of like, sure, I know a lot of those clones' names, but not in Attack of the Clones. In Attack of the Clones, none of those clones have names.
Mm-hmm.
They're, CT53725, no one cares about their names. They don't have names yet. In in Revenge of the Sith, sure, all the commanders' names, but none of they're just clones.
They're just clones.
For the most part, the commanders are just standing there.
Yeah.
They're not actually engaged in the action.
Mm-hmm.
They're aside from Cody, you've got Gree is just standing there with Yoda.
Yep.
Right? Like he's not in the fight. And And then the Order 66 scene, you get some action out of the commanders, but really that's undercut with. I mean, not undercut, but like it's you get lost in that fact because you're watching all the Jedi get.
It's overshadowed. It's overshadowed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one that I as much as I kind of gave earlier, I gave Revenge of the Sith some credit for its space battle. Revenge of the Sith does not fit my criteria for a good space battle.
Really? I'm interested in this because I love the opening scene, but I'm interested in seeing what you're going to say.
You don't get the cross chatter.
Oh, that's fair. It's just Obi-Wan and Anakin talking. That's fair.
Yeah, and you get one line. I think you get one line out of Oddball. Is his name Oddball?
Yeah, Oddball. Yeah.
Yeah. You get one line out of Oddball, and that's it. But for the most part, that's focused on Anakin and Obi-Wan and the buzz droids. You don't even get any real dogfights.
There's no real enemy contact in that scene.
Yeah. It's just them kind of flying with buzz droids. Everyone's leaving him the fuck alone. Look, first off, that's a failure of tactics on the droid army's part, right? If you're going to make them preoccupied with buzz droids, that's when you send a squadron of vultures after them. I love that scene. But my favorite part of that scene is the opening where the two of them are weaving between the CIS destroyer and the Republic destroyer.
Before there's any contact with the droids.
Right. It's
the flying aspect.
It's the flying. It's not the it's not the buzz droids. So I don't give a shit about the buzz droids, right? In my opinion, the buzz droid scene, it's just okay. I mean, you get a little bit of good interaction between Anakin and Obi-Wan, showing their, Anakin's brash and Obi-Wan is, really reserved. He's like, forget about me. Go to the ship. Go save the Emperor. Well, no, that's not how. Or Chancellor. I don't know.
No, it's a good point. I've never really thought about the criteria of a good space battle.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's make.
And when we're talking about starfighters specifically, I love the aspect of, and I'm not saying that everything hinges on it, but for you, it's a lot of it hinges on chatter between the pilots, communication between the pilots, and like you had mentioned earlier, we kind of have a cheap experience with it, playing video games and doing squadrons together, so we understand how it works, but it really does add more levity to the situation if we hear these pilots talking to each other, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, well, both levity and stakes. I mean, because if you don't know who the pilots are, even if you don't need their names, right? You don't need Jack Porkins' names, Jack Porkins' name in order to get, it came from behind and care. Oh shit, they're losing pilots, right? Yeah. I mean, you care when Biggs dies, you kind of care when Garvin dies, but like, it's the building tension of losing these named pilots, these pilots you really care about. Mm-hmm. And these pilots who have had lines, right? All of them have lines. They all reported in. I think every pilot, I think Red 7 and 11 don't have lines before they die. You see Red 7 and 11 die and they don't have lines, I think. They report in, but that's it. Like, I don't know. And which brings us back to Tally Lintra, right? Tally Lintra is a pilot. Tally Lintra is a pilot that we don't see in
Force Awakens,
the Battle of Starkiller Base, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't see any A-Wings participate in Starkiller Base. And then you flash to the Resistance escape in Episode 8, and all of a sudden she's leading the second wave of this attack. And she just, the chick's a natural in a pilot scene. She needs to run a master class, not just for the people that are going to be in cockpits, but for the people that are writing these scenes. Because if you had any thought of that in the Battle of Exegol, it probably would have been better, And there is a second component. There's a second component for me. There's three components for me that make me care about a space battle. So number one is that pilot interaction, the pilot chatter, caring about who's in the cockpit. Number two is watching the maneuvers, right? Again, Exegol really doesn't have that many interesting maneuvers.
There's no
right?
real close-ups on anything.
No. Everything's real zoomed out.
Yep.
You kind of get one shot of the Y-wing with Babu Frick and Zori Bliss in it. That's real good.
Oh, where they shoot the cannon. Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. That's the only shot I remember from that whole battle. I mean, obviously I can remember more shots, but that's the only shot that like stick. The Twitter this week's all been, what lives rent free in your head, right? Nothing from the Battle of Exegol. Nothing.
That's fair.
It requires effort to remember the Battle of Exegol.
Yeah, it just felt like a giant waste. Like it was more on the focus of the fact that all of these ships had come into this moment, and then they forgot about the fight aspect of it. Really, they were just like focusing on the fact that the entire galaxy had come together, which I understand from a writing standpoint. But
look, there are so many little cameo ships in there.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of that, it kind of shows, all right, I do not want to be, what's funny? All right, I'm going to give an aside here. I had to give confession to someone last night as the saint. No, I was talking with one of the rookies last night, not a Star Wars rookie.
Okay.
And he asked me, do you really like Rise of Sky, or do you really like The Last Jedi? Or are you just positive about the film publicly so you don't get in trouble? And I said, well, it's not a matter of whether or not I like The Last Jedi. I have, I like all of Star Wars, right? The reason I bring this up is I like The Last Jedi a lot, or Rise of Skywalker a lot more than I like other non-Star Wars movies, right? But if you ask me rank your Star Wars movies, Rise of Skywalker comes in real low, right? But I still like it better than most non-Star Wars movies. So don't miss my meaning here, being critical about Rise of Skywalker. But you had every single ship from Star Wars Resistance, every single one of the hot shots from Star Wars Resistance was there at the battle.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't flash to one of their fucking cockpits.
Yeah, you couldn't show Kaz or someone, just one.
You couldn't show Hera.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. What we saw the ghost, but you couldn't show Hera for 1 second.
Like, you couldn't have given us a shot of an N1 starfighter. There are N1 starfighters at that battle. Mm-hmm. You couldn't given us one single shot of a chrome N1 starfighter, or like even an interesting color of an N1 starfighter flashing in that battle. Like, for as long and as congested as that movie is, I feel like it misses one of the core tenets of Star Wars. And by Star Wars, I mean A New Hope, right?
The original.
It is a World War II film set in space.
Mm-hmm. Right?
It is the whole inspiration for the trench run is World War I and World War II footage of airplane battles. And you couldn't give us a little bit of love in your final Star Wars movie for the legacy of starfighter battles. The reason this is a big deal to me is because they did such a good job at giving us an homage to the legacy of the Force. Because you've got that whole scene of all of the Jedi giving Rey their blessing, so to speak.
Yeah.
You should have done the same thing in that space battle. I remember a year and a month ago, people were asking me, what do you want out of this film? It's been a year. Has it only been a year?
No, it's a year in December. Yeah. It feels like so long ago.
Fucking quarantine, man. Yeah, about a year and a month ago, people were asking me, what do you want out of this film? And my answer was, I want the most badass space battle of all time. We did not get that.
And it's interesting because the trailers were really relying on
They
that
sold
scene.
that.
They were relying on that moment for us to be like, okay, like it's happening.
Yeah, they sold that, right?
And
you see the Falcon, and right next to the fucking Falcon, you see the Ghost.
Yep. It is pretty frustrating, and it also makes me wonder because, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I also felt like JJ and his crew did a really good job on the Starkiller base fight with showing pilots.
Oh yeah,
and the comm chatter between those few pilots that were there, and then you skip a beat to this movie, same director, but it's just a completely different side of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they forgot what they did with, maybe it was this thought that, maybe there was some truth that JJ just took A New Hope and templated it onto a new movie, and that's why Force Awakens works. But I love The Force Awakens.
So do I.
I don't care if it's templated onto A New Hope. I don't give a shit. It's a great movie, right? Maybe they wanted to make a point not to template, the Battle of Endor, the space Battle of Endor, onto the Battle of Exegol, but like,
even just a little bit of it would have worked.
We've got and we see Horton Salm, and we see Arvel Krynid, like, and Wedge and Nine Yub, and we don't see Nine Yub. Nine Yub is another Rebel veteran who was at the Battle of Endor. He was at the Battle of Starkiller Base. He's at the Battle of Exegol. We don't see him once at the Battle of Exegol. Apparently, he dies.
He does. Yeah.
We don't fucking see it.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why kill off a fan favorite? I maybe he's a fan favorite. I don't know. I like the guy.
I think he's a fan favorite.
Like, why kill off a fan favorite veteran Rebel pilot? The Rebel Alliance and to a certain extent the Resistance are built off their Starfighter Corps.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Why not emphasize that in a movie called Star Wars? It's not called Star Religious Zealot Battles, right? Because that's what the Jedi and the Sith are. They're religious adherents. They're zealots, Let them have their shit out, right? You got Luke and Vader. Like, look, I remember the Battle of Endor, the space Battle of Endor, so much more strongly, so much more viscerally than Luke fighting Darth Vader. Because we have a good lightsaber fight in pretty much every movie.
Yeah, that's fair.
We don't. We go every other movie with a good starfighter battle.
Yeah, and to that point, what's the one thing that you remember from the original Star Wars? Trench Run?
The Trench Run. You certainly don't remember Vader versus Obi-Wan.
No, it's the Trench Run for me.
You remember the final shot of the door irising open and the two of them standing there with cross sabers, Vader striking him down and Luke yelling no. It's that frame. It's not the frame when they're going.
Mm-hmm. It's the dialogue.
Right, it's the dialogue. You don't remember any of that. But you've got plenty of shots of those ships maneuvering around, gaining the advantage on each other, and the pilots going back and forth. It's that simple, J.J. Abrams. Now, let's talk about Rogue Squadron.
I'm so pumped.
So, I have no doubt in my mind that Rogue Squadron will get this right. Yeah, because that's the point of the film, right? I'm sure they'll get it right. I'm sure it'll be just fine. But what do you need to see? And don't tell me good dogfights. What specifically do you need to see out of Rogue Squadron?
I'm going to relate back to what I related to quite a bit when I talked to it, but it's the Top Gun reference as far as I need to see different pilots from what we've seen so far in Star Wars. A different style of pilot or a different group of pilot. And when we talk about Top Gun, you know, Maverick is this very cocky, risky type of pilot. Iceman is the one who he's trying to beat. Goose is the one trying to level head Maverick. Like I want pilots, and they don't have to be those type, but I want pilots who are different from one another and that bring something different to the squadron that they're in.
Okay.
I don't want them all to be the same. I don't want them all to be.
You don't want 5 pilots in an X-wing.
I want a legit squadron. Like I want kind of like what we see with Alphabet Squadron, right? The books, very similar to that, where they all fly.
Or not Titan Squadron, Vanguard Squadron.
Or Vanguard Squadron, exactly. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be all 5 different types, but it can be 2 of this and 2 of this and 1 of this, or 2 and 3 or whatever it may be. But okay. I need a variety, and I love myself X-wings. I do.
Yeah,
but we, to this point in Star Wars, we have never seen a legit A-wing pilot in the spotlight.
No.
Other than Tally, and she was short.
But she's not flying an A-wing, really.
Exactly.
Right? She's kind of commanding that battle.
Exactly. And so I would really love to see an A-wing pilot, because they are so vastly different to fly than X-wings.
Absolutely. That's what I want to see. I want to see let's jump back to Rogue One, right? In Rogue One, we only have 2 starfighters present, and you have the Ghost present, which we don't really see any close-up shots of the Ghost. But in Rogue One, you have X-wings and Y-wings, and for the most part, you're watching Y-wings drop bombs on the shield gate, while X-wings hunt the TIE fighters.
Yeah, pick off, yeah.
And it's showing that dichotomy between the 2 of them. And you see that the Y-wings with things like the ion torpedoes can really make a dent in those Star Destroyers. A temporary dent, but a dent. That's the interplay I want to see out of the squadrons in
how different they are from each other.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right. And like if you look at Rogue Squadron in the books, and you look at Alphabet Squadron, and you look at Vanguard Squadron, they're not 12 humans, right? Or Wraith Squadron, or whatever squadron you pull from the expanded universe. You have a diverse set of pilots as far as racial or species background, right?
Yeah.
And we get that a little bit in the sequels, right? You've got the Abigneto pilot, you've got Nine Yub, but for the most part, it's just Abigneto and human. You don't get a whole lot else.
I would love to see an alien lead in the cockpit. I would love to see it.
I don't need it now. When you say alien, do you want it to be near human though, like a Miri Allen or?
No, I would love for it to be a full-on different species.
Like an Abigneto or something.
Yeah, where it doesn't look human at all. But it obviously can fit inside a cockpit.
It's got to be bipedal, and it's got to be able to speak basic. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. See, I'd be down for. I think I still want a human or near human species, like a Miri Allen, like Barasafi, or Twi'lek.
I would love to see a Twi'lek live action Twi'lek lead. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Or even just put them, because you're probably gonna have a lead pilot. You're gonna have your Luke Skywalker or your Maverick or your whatever, and then you'll have 4 other pilots most likely, or 5 other pilots, or 6 other pilots. I'd be okay with them doing a human lead, with the supporting cast being non-human.
Yeah, they probably won't, alien up a movie star. They're going to want that face in front of everything, and that's just kind of how it works.
Mean, maybe, and that's why I say Miri Allen, right? Because you can just give them the Gamora treatment, right?
That's true. I mean, look at Ahsoka, right? They just gave Rosario Dawson some paint. You could tell it's Rosario Dawson stuff. Yeah. So
because with Gamora, it's just, Gamora, Zoe Saldana would make a great Miri Allen. Just got to add some of the diamond pattern to her.
I would love to see her in a Rogue Squadron movie. That'd be awesome. because she obviously she does flying in Galaxies or in Guardians anyway.
Zoe Saldana as a Twi'lek in Rogue Squadron.
That'd be awesome with Chris Pine as the male lead.
I would put Chris Pine as okay. So this was what I wanted to circle back to. So the other thing that's going to be important in Rogue Squadron, and something that I think is important in a Star Wars battle, is your command center.
Okay.
Right, your Admiral Raddus.
Yeah.
None of the prequels have this.
Okay.
None of the prequel dogfights have a command center shot. They do a little bit. They do it backwards in episode 1. They show the inside of the droid control ship with the
they show the bad guys. Yeah. Gotcha.
Nemoidians. But you've got the Yavin base, you've got Echo base, and you have Home 1. And then you have the Resistance base in
Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm. You have the Raddus, again, second appearance of Raddus, kind of. You have the Bridge of the Raddus in Force Awakens, or in Last Jedi, and you again don't get in Rise of Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
And in Rogue One, you have Admiral Raddus on the Fecundity?
No, it's the Prudity. Oh my God, what is its name? Oh, that's
Look, guys. My study regimen hasn't started yet. I've been watching Godzilla.
Oh, that's gonna bug me. It's the Profundity.
Profundity. That's what I said.
Oh, is that what you said? Okay, my bad.
Yeah,
I didn't hear you.
Maybe I said fecundity, which is
rotting.
Profundity is the opposite.
Profundity, yeah. Which you don't have to worry about that because I believe that was already asked this year. So
that's been already asked this year, yeah.
No, it's a really good point. I'm interested because we're talking about command centers and stuff like this. Depending on where this movie takes place, because if it's in a timeline that we already know of.
Mm-hmm.
What would you want to see? And 2, if it's not in a timeline that would you like say it's either after Rise of Skywalker or somehow before something else, what would you want to see from a command center?
Well, I would assume, all I really need out of a command center is one or two officers, right? You need your admiral, or your general, or your whatever position. You need your Admiral Raddus, Admiral Akbar.
Yeah. Now
that person doesn't have to be participating in the battle. They can be in a command center, back on a planet and using long range comms. So Dennis Lawson can fit that role perfectly, right? Assuming we're doing it post Return of the Jedi, that would be your Wedge, right? Your Wedge, or better, your Hera. You've got Wedge or Hera in the command center, and all you got to do is, I've got, showing another squadron on scopes coming in, showing, whatever, hit the shield generator, hit the comms tower, something, right? That's all I need. And then you're going to have that one scene where the pilot, where they give them an order, like, return to base, that's an order. And then the pilot goes, I can't do that, Admiral, I'm going in, right? Like I already know. That's all I need, right?
You just needed to you needed to feel authentic. It just needs to feel authentic. Like it needs to have all of the pieces that are included with not just a Star Wars battle, but also
with a war movie.
With real life stuff. Like what happens with fighter pilots on a daily basis. They have command centers that are either on, carriers out on the ocean or some base on land somewhere. And if you don't show that there's a command center or that pilots are taking orders from someone, it doesn't feel real.
I was watching, I can't remember the name of the film right now, but it's a new film on Netflix with Anthony Mackie.
Outside the Wire.
Outside the Wire. So I was watching Outside the Wire, and literally the fucking intro scene of that has exactly that. You've got the main character, who is not Anthony Mackie, by the way. The main character of that film is a drone pilot.
Yep.
And he's sitting in his drone chair, right? And he's communicating with a general in a command center. And you get exactly that scene. Don't take the shot, danger close, whatever. He takes the shot. That like.
And that was the opening scene that took 5 to 10 minutes.
Right. And then you have like you've gotten that in all of the great space battles in Star Wars, which is really only 2 or 3. You've got arguably every fight in the original trilogy is a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
Yavin, Hoth, Endor, all masterpieces. They all have that fighter pilot to fighter pilot communication, and then you've got the command center. And I think part of the problem is we established a bond between Biggs and Luke in Yavin, right? In New Hope. We have that bond between Biggs and Luke. So a lot of that interaction you see is between the two of them, with a little bit with Wedge, a little bit with Garvin. You've got the Battle of Hoth. Most of that interaction is between Biggs and Dak, Wedge and Jansen, and Luke and Wedge. And then you have the Battle of Endor. Most of that is between Wedge and Calrissian and Akbar, and a little bit with the other two with Gold and Gray leaders, Horton and Arvel. You get a little bit of it in The Force Awakens between the Abignetto, whose name escapes me, Eloasti. Eloasti and Poe. You get a little bit between Poe and Jess Pava and Snap, but it's not as heavy as it is in Yavin.
Yeah.
You don't really have that in Force Awakens.
Oh,
or Last Jedi, excuse me. Yeah, you're right. You get a little bit between Poe and Leia, which again, that's your command center to fighter pilot. You get a little bit of tally to Poe, like for, I think it's like 1 or 2 lines. You get none of that in Exegol.
Yeah.
None of it. And it just kills me. It's so simple. It's such an easy include.
Well, and it's with no command center, it just feels like they're all just doing what they want. Like
Right.
There's no like goal or like
and
set things that they're going to do or what they're supposed to do.
And that would have been great if that was the goal.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, that kind of is the goal of that scene, right? Because to a certain extent, well, Leia's dead. This is their last-ditch effort to stop the First Order, or the final order at this point. But you either need to really portray it that way, or you need to drop that as a plot line. I don't know. I feel like I'm being so negative in this.
You're not though. It's look, and everyone knows this about the Star Wars community. When we like something, we're not being negative just to be negative or hating on it. We're being this way because we want it to be so good. Mm-hmm. Like we just want it to be done the right way because we've seen it been done the right way in the past. Right? We have all of these examples of the original trilogy, of Rogue One doing it in the Disney era, and Rogue One. They have the ability to do it. They just haven't done it every single time. It's more so about the execution of it not being done rather than us being like, no, that was stupid.
Yeah. I mean, look, I like the movie. I'm contractually obligated to watch the movie ad nauseum. Right. Like, and that might be it, right? If I didn't have to break down and analyze the movie for facts, I probably would have watched it a couple times and forgotten about it. But I have to keep watching the movie.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is. But then again, I like The Last Jedi a lot more now than I did when I first saw it.
Yeah.
Partly because I've seen it so many times. But I mean, that's all. Look, chat. Do you have anything? Do you have anything for us, chat? Chat. What do you want? What do you want me to talk about?
Well, while we wait for that, I do want to ask, because we haven't touched on it too much, but is there something specific about Tally Lintra that really makes you hone in on her as a character?
I mean, it helps that she's attractive. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, there is. It's the way that she delivers her lines. It's that attitude. It's that snark. You can tell that Hermione Corfield, when she was offered the role, she went, yeah, okay, let's go. I want this role.
Yeah.
You know, she didn't phone it in. To a certain extent, Dennis Lawson phoned his first performance as Wedge. Yeah, even Jill said. I was going to say it's because she's cute. Look, Hermione Corfield, call me. 714-614. I won't say the rest of it on air. It's it's the way she delivers her lines. You can tell that like there's this certain reservedness that the pilots in the original trilogy use, to the point where like Dennis Lawson is dubbed over in A New Hope. It's not Dennis Lawson actually saying those lines. It's him mouthing lines and someone else is dubbing over it. Luckily, he does get to say his lines in Empire and Return. There's this passion that she delivers her. Look, Brandy, if you want my phone number, I'll give you my phone number. Brandy, you're allowed to have my phone number. I mean, it's just there's a certain passion. There's a certain amount of you feel like she's an actual pilot in the in a battle. Mm-hmm. She's an old hand at this. She's not she's not just someone moving in a cockpit. She's delivering lines. She looks like a key character, and that's one of the and I think one of the reasons they do that is because they kill her off like 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
Right. Or 20 minutes later, but
it's pretty. It's probably 10 minutes
quick.
Later.
Fin naked, bag leaking. Then they kill her off. I think that's why for Tally. I mean, same thing with Denis Elberger. Denis Elberger, same thing. She delivers all of her lines. Rick Ali delivers all of his lines. Both of them with this passion and this. It shows the tension, right? The original trilogy fighter pilots are almost this calm, cool under pressure pilots, and mostly Wedge, right? Wedge especially is this, but that's Wedge for you. He's not. He's supposed to be that character. Look, Snap's there because of nepotism. He's JJ's friend. Greg Grunberg is not there because he's an expert fighter pilot, although he's played a pilot twice now. Once in Lost and once in Star Wars. I don't know. Why Tally? I don't know. It's just I think it's because that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, after you.
The one thing that always comes to mind, and you said it earlier on when we tweeted out about it, but when she says "bombs away," that line that is like it's implanted in my head when she says "bombs away," and you had mentioned the passion and like the realism that comes from her voice when she says that in the moment. It's almost like a yes, we got this kind of cocky sense, but also a very confident bombs away move that they kind of got this under pressure now.
It's kind of this smug, like this very smug, like it really makes you, and they show this in The Last Jedi. They show the bombs with things written on them. Which, by the way, one of the bombs says Han says hi.
Yep, it sure does.
Or Han says hello. I think it's Han says hi.
It says Han says hi. Yep.
Yeah. They show the bombs with the shit written on them with the drawings. This is a very like World War II fighter pilot thing, right? Like you're getting the Nazis. You're excited to bomb these people. That comes across so well when Tally delivers her lines in a way that really supersedes other line deliveries from pilots. We get 4 lines from her, maybe.
Yeah, it's not very much, and she's like a beloved character.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I mean, the one thing coming out of The Last Jedi outside of Luke dying, I was like, wow, I wish we would have seen more of Tally.
Right.
Like,
I wish we would have gotten her in Force Awakens.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she could have easily been in there, and then maybe died at the beginning of The Last Jedi. But
yeah, then we would have cared a little more.
It's very true. I mean, we still care about her, but even more.
Well, yeah,
even more. So, yeah.
But I think, like, I care a lot more from rewatching, right? Like, just picking apart that scene, and especially me having to go, okay, what's that pilot's name? Right? Taliesin Lintra. Okay. Well, that's fun. Talisin's a fun name. I
would have loved to have seen, even just for a moment, Ryan's flying style with her. We didn't even get a flying style.
No, and part of that has to do with, part of that has to do with, this is another flaw with The Last Jedi. I hate the MG-100 bombers.
Really?
I hate the Super Fortress bombers. They're they don't make any sense in Star Wars. And I don't mean, I've seen a lot of people complain about gravity, right? I just mean, whoever built these things, right? Give me a fucking Y-wing with some torpedoes. Whoever built these things that are so slow and made of paper. I understand you need a huge payload to blow up that dreadnought.
Yeah.
But look, Ryan, you could have written it a different way. You didn't have to write it where they had to be blown up by an MG-100.
It's fair.
Are they MG-100s or MG-1000s? I don't know.
One of those.
They're one of those. Look, I don't have a match coming up. I got time to study. And no manager's watching this right now, so
you're good.
If you see it after, you've already made your decision. Yeah, I mean, it just, I don't know, man. I just,
dude, I get it. I get it, man. I get it.
This is something, and I'm not like, we have a mutual friend who's a big fighter pilot guy. That's his thing, right? That's not my thing. I'm not the fighter. Like, that's not my, I don't own a pilot helmet. I own like 2 Mandalorian helmets, and I own a clone trooper helmet, right? Yeah. Like, that's my thing, is the ground fighting in Star Wars is my thing. But as a kid, and as like, what hooks you into Star Wars versus what keeps you in Star Wars are 2 different things. I don't think anyone stays with Star Wars for whatever first hooked them, because it's such a big, expansive universe. You find something that you end up caring more about. Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the space battles, and now it's the running and gunning through the hallways, which Rise of Skywalker does do well. Mm-hmm. I wish there was a little more passion out of, Finn killing stormtroopers, but that Rise of Skywalker does actually do that well. There are some good ground fights there. You've got the speeder chase. You've got, I wish we would have got more with the Knights of Ren versus Ben. Same. Because you can't build up the Knights of Ren and then just barely fucking show them. When your Praetorian guards are, when your nameless, faceless Praetorian guards are more foreboding than
why weren't those
the Knights of Ren? Like, you have to give me, you got to give me something.
Yeah,
you got to give me something.
I'm sure that's a whole conversation for another day.
All right, next topic. Next topic, when we do this again, will be kind of a branch off of this. Characters we wish we could have gotten more out of.
Ooh, I like it.
Characters that deserved more.
There's a lot of those.
Look, I'm trying to be okay. So it's interesting, right? Like, I try to be very positive with Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I think the way I'm positive with Star Wars is by complaining. Right? Like, like because my whole thing with Star Wars is the world building and the character building. And that's I think the thing with Tally is I look at Tally and I go, okay, I want to know more about her.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know more.
Mm-hmm.
I look at Snap and I want to know more. So I go read Aftermath, right?
Yep.
And, you know, you look at Wedge and you go, okay, who is this guy? He's been in all 3 battles. You know, you want to know who is Darth Plagueis? Why is there a rule of 2? What's the story on this, right? What is Starkiller Base? What,
yep.
You know, what planet is this? Go play Jedi Fallen Order. Find out. You know. So, because of that, kind of going to the, you know, characters who should have gotten more thing, these are the characters that you see on screen and they make you go, shut up, Fire Engine. Well, yeah, they don't make me go, shut up, Fire Engine. They make me go, man, I wish we got one more scene with them. I wish we could have seen them in action. I really wish we could have seen Boba Fett kick ass, right? Boba Fett's the poster child for that.
Yeah. He's
this badass in armor, and he gets hit in the back, and he flies away. He gets shot into the Sarlacc. You know, finally, Robert Rodriguez, we get
40 years later.
Yeah, 40 years later, he gets what he deserves.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm a Boba Fett fan. Right?
Same.
I mean,
same. Yeah, my poster's not up there, but I have a giant Boba thing. So, no, I like it. I like the topic. I think it'll be a fun one because there's characters like that in every movie. There's characters like that in every.
I think we could do. Do we want to do? We probably shouldn't talk about this on air, but do we want to do one per movie?
I like that.
Okay, let's do some homework. One per movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have you back multiple times on the show just to either talk Star Wars or just to drink whiskey with me. So
I mean,
we do it off camera anyway, but why not do it on camera? So
well, at 5:00 we'll be drinking whiskey together, watching.
We will be
watching people read names off a list.
That is very true. All right, so Sean, before we get out of here, I want to ask you because we haven't talked much about it. What do you think of the old Woodford?
I like it. I like it. I am a ice guy. I'm an ice in my whiskey guy. I have some stones. I need a little bit of watered down, and I'll tell you why. Because I want to drink a lot of whiskey.
That's fair.
But I don't want to get fucked up. So because of that, I like a little water in my whiskey. I also tend to run hot.
Okay.
So I like
it down.
Yeah, I like that. But it's very good.
Well, I know that you were a rye guy, right? But this is a bourbon. So what do you think?
I'm a rye guy. I like bourbons though. I drink you know what I've been drinking a lot of lately, and it might be out of laziness, is flavored whiskeys.
Okay. I have a couple
so like Rock and Rye is my go-to. I've sung the praises of this, which I think I'm out. I think I'm out of Rock and Rye, but it's Slow and Low Rock and Rye.
Okay.
Named after a Star Wars character.
Would that be your recommendation for me?
That is my recommendation. Is Slow and Low Rock and Rye, and what it is, it's rye whiskey with rock candy, honey, bitters, and lemon.
Interesting.
So it's kind of an old fashioned in a bottle.
Love it.
And that's why I say it's kind of out of laziness is, I typically make, if I'm going to drink whiskey, the typical fashion I will drink it in is an old fashioned. So Slow and Low, I can just pour over ice and boom, you're done. Right. You don't need garnish. You don't need to mix anything. You just pour it and you're good.
Yeah.
But look, sometimes I'll drink shit like Crown Royal. Like, you know, occasionally you just need a little bit of Crown Royal vanilla, you know. Yeah. But I think the problem is if I'm drinking whiskey either on the rocks or straight, I feel like it's got to be a really good whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not going to have
because it's all that if that's all that you taste.
Right, that's all you're going to taste. So I have a friend who does a lot of Makers on the rocks, and I'm like, okay, Makers is fine, but is that really all I want? Yeah. You know, Makers makes an okay old fashioned.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few other cocktails you can make with Makers that's okay, but like, I don't like the taste of Makers enough to go, yeah, this is what I want to drink.
Yeah.
But this is definitely something I've yet to mix this with anything, and I'm about halfway through the bottle.
Nice.
So every time I've drank this, it's been on the rocks or straight. Yeah, I like it. I don't have any tasting notes or anything. I don't.
No,
really...
that's fine. That's fine. I will say, I went and got my bottle earlier this week, and I didn't know this, but they do have rye.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna. I don't know if you've had it before. Have you had it before?
I have. I have.
Okay.
In fact, before this bottle. That's how I've had it before. Was
sweet.
As a rye. It's a very good rye. And I like ryes because again, I typically make old fashions, and I like rye because I tend to go a little oversweet on my old fashions, so rye kind of counteracts that a little bit.
Got it. Sweet. Well, Sean, this was a long time coming, and this was fun though.
Yeah, I know. I've been putting this off for.
It's you know what it was.
We're so busy.
We got all kinds of things going on. Obviously, everyone knows who's watching Schmoedown Wise. We're busy with stuff, but it's been a blast talking Star Wars last hour. I'm definitely gonna have you back.
I would love to.
And we already have a topic, so that's easy enough. All right, before we get out of here, I'll just do the cliche thing of everyone watching. Where can they find you, Sully?
There is 2 major places to find me, though realistically it's only one. Actually 3. I lied. You can find me very occasionally, about once a week, over on the PJ Campbell Network. I host a show called Box, which is a once a month show, but I'm also on the Sunday evening Unwind every week. This week, I believe we're talking Godzilla versus Kong and just general Godzilla goodness on that. I've been doing a deep dive on some Godzilla films this week. You can find me on Twitter at SuitUpSully, and you can find me on Twitch at Sean Sully, SeanSully. I do a lot of model building and miniature painting and occasionally video games. Coming up, we're going to be doing Jedi Fallen Order. So that should be... I really want to replay that. So that should be fun.
So have you finished that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I still haven't finished it.
All right. So here's what I did. When Jedi Fallen Order came out, it came out last May, I think.
Yeah, it was early last year. Yeah.
So it came out like 3 weeks before my tournament match for Star Wars.
Got it.
Or like a month and a half before my tournament match. So Kate messaged me telling me they're doing a Star Wars tournament. I have a match in that tournament. And then I bought Fallen Order. So I played it on easy in 2 days.
Got it. Okay.
I beat it in 2 days so that I could study. And I've never gone back to it.
Got it. Okay.
So I really want to go back to it. It's been like a year since I've played it. I tried to pick it up the other day, and I was like, holy shit, I suck at this game. Like, it's not an easy game. It's hard to go back to.
I haven't finished it yet, so I need to get back on that. So I have a hard time playing video games as it is, and then Squadrons came out, and that kind of took priority for me. But
Squadrons is fucking great. We need to play that soon.
Yes, we do. We definitely do. Yeah. Well, again, Sean, thank you so much for hanging out, man. This was a blast. All of you watching live, thank you so much for being in the chat, commenting along. Hopefully you love the Star Wars talk. It was an interesting talk today, Star Wars pilots and fighter or space battles, I should say. And then we have our topic for next time. Again, for those of you who may just be popping in for the first time, the show is going to be on a 2-week turn. So you'll see an episode in 2 weeks. And if you guys have topics or things you want me to talk about or guests, let me know in the comments. But until then, that is Sean. I'm Jake. This is the Whiskey Jedi. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you guys next time.